March 30th, 2016. Ms. Aruna Rodrigues of India has challenged the government of India at the Supreme Court on account of the government attempting to release insufficiently tested and potentially harmful GM crops on the Indian population. While her court case is still ongoing, it has already set a few legal precedences. One of them is that business interests, confidentiality clause, and intellectual property rights cannot trump public safety. Thus, safety data on GM crops have to be placed in public domain if such crops are to be approved for general release. I spoke with Aruna today over the phone to have her talk about this issue, because it overlaps Canadian concern that the safety data on glyphosate, or any GM crop for that matter, even after decades of release in Canadian environment and agriculture, remains out of reach from the people. I think this information about the legal precedents set by the Indian Supreme Court in support of Ms. Aruna Rodrigues and in opposition to the government of India, as well as Monsanto, needs to be better understood and pushed for by countries in the West, such as here in Canada. If citizens of India, a democratic nation with a secular constitution, can be protected thus, then Canada, another democratic nation with another secular constitution, should also expect the same. If this protection is not offered by the government, Canadians deserve to demand it.
Hello guys, I'm speaking with Aruna Rodrigues of India, who has been battling the government for a number of years now at the Supreme Court with relation to the Indian government's effort to introduce potentially dangerous genetically modified crops to the people while its science remains either inconclusive or hidden and out of reach of the people. Hello Aruna, how are you?
I'm fine, Tony. Good to hear from you.
Okay. So if you will let us know what you feel about this issue of safety documents of biotech products such as GMO or pesticides such as glyphosate being kept out of reach of the people while their food system is inundated with it. Do you have any input from your end?
Tony, I can give you inputs on two aspects. One is universal for all democracies, and that's the ethical issue. I don't think it matters which democracy you're talking about, assuming that it is a democratic nation. There is no way they can keep biosafety data away from the public for such an important thing as the food that we eat. It is abhorrent to think that any government would do so. In India, we have a slightly easier problem in that our constitution gives us the right to ask for that data. So we actually have a precedent in my case in the Supreme Court where it's called public interest litigation. The precedent being that when we were fighting BT Brinjal, we had a court order that all the biosafety data would be put in the public domain. So that having been a precedent, we are now involved in a similar exercise for something called DMH Mustard 11, which is a Barney's Star male sterile female restorer gene, which they're trying to keep secret. So we currently have a contempt of court filed against the government, specifically the Ministry of Environment, and I'm pretty hopeful that we will prevail.
And this mustard, can we simplify it as saying genetically modified mustard?
It's a GMO. In fact, the commonality with Canada is that it follows the same genetic construct that you have for rape in canola.
Ah, okay.
Yes, it's the sterile gene and a female restorer line, along with glyphosate, which is the herbicide. So you've got three genes, and this bar gene, which is the glyphosate. Almost exactly the same.
Wonderful. And your experience so far, that contempt of court, is that the Supreme Court of India, based on what you just said about special clauses in the Indian Constitution, actually can stop the Union of India from from, how to say, force the Union of India to...
From using confidential business information to trump public interest.
Yeah.
So far they have failed to do it in the case of BT Brinjal, and given the fact that we now have a precedent, I expect the court to follow the same action.
So to rephrase it for Canadian listeners, can we say what you just said is that confidentiality and an intellectual property right of a corporation cannot trump public interest when safety of people are involved. Is that a...
Yes, that is the precedent that we have at the moment.
Fantastic, Aruna. You are doing a wonderful job, and thank you so much for taking time to speak to me. We will stay in touch, and good luck in your endeavor.
Thank you. I'll pass on your compliments to the advocate Prashant Bhushan.
Please do. I do admire him greatly.
He very much so. I will tell him.
Thank you so much, Aruna. Bye-bye for now.
Okay. All right. Sure.